Hey y'all, it's Angel, your best friend who happens to be a therapist. I still can't believe they talked me into doing a podcast, but here I am and here we go. I'm not gonna lie to you, we gonna talk about everything. Nothing's off limits, the good, bad, and the ugly. So put your seatbelt on and enjoy the ride. I'm not gonna lie, marriage is hard as shit. With that being said, my husband is joining us today for this podcast. We're talking about wedding is a moment, but marriage is the covenant.
First thing I have to say is why you have to say it like that. Marriage is, what'd you say, hard as shit.
Did I say hard as shit?
Yeah.
I meant hard as fuck.
Damn, that doesn't make it any better.
It's hard.
It's hard, but it
It's
ain't
not
that
easy.
hard. It's hard when you make it like that. It don't have to be. Marriage don't have to be hard.
So do you think, so my husband is joining us. We've been married for 12 years. Do you think that, how much of the 12 years do you think was hard? If you had to combine them.
Maybe 2.5, maybe even 3.
3 years?
That's. I gave you a range.
Combined?
Yeah.
I was going to say like a year.
Oh, I said a range.
That's a hell of a range.
Well, your definition of hard and mine is different.
Give me yours.
It's just little things I think that happen continuously that starts to make it hard. But I mean, normal day-to-day stuff, no. But when it becomes, I guess, like a machine gun, like it never stops, that's when shit gets hard.
Oh, he petty. He's talking about, I know what he's talking about. We had this thing. What year was that? That was like year.
That was in the beginning.
Was it the beginning? It was probably like year 4.
Okay, go ahead.
No, like year 4 or 5, where we had this thing about popping shots.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Nagging,
You said continuously.
Nagging, popping shots. It has many names.
If y'all hear me curse him out, I don't mean no harm.
Yes, you do. Nobody ever got cursed out and there wasn't harm involved.
I don't mean no harm.
All right, well.
So I'm just giving caution to the wind right now. So it was probably like year 4 or 5. And popping shots is like
Talking shit. But not doing it directly.
Throwing dicks.
That can wear down on you. That wears down on you. Like, you hear it and it's not something you brush off. You internalize it, and then the more it gets done, the more weight it carries. And that was probably it didn't take us long to get through that.
Was it how long in that phase of marriage? It didn't. You know what? It went away for Lent, because for Lent, so we're Catholics, and Lent, remember we gave up popping shots.
Right. And
I kind of feel like after that it got a little easier.
Yeah, I mean, once we actually talked about it, when it, I guess, I don't want to say shit hit the fan, but when it just became a real issue and we actually talked about it and said what was bothering, what I was saying was bothering me, then you made an effort to stop. And then I honestly can say after that talk, you really stopped popping shots. You still do it here and there, but nowhere near like you used to. That shit was out of hand. But you don't do that. You haven't done that in years, though.
Tomato.
No.
I didn't look at it as, so you're right. I didn't look at it as popping shots. I looked at it as you not following the protocol.
What the hell does that mean?
Because
no protocol?
it was over stupid stuff. It was over stuff like
exactly. You
yeah,
said it.
It was over stupid stuff.
But dudes don't do that. I don't
What?
pop. I ain't pop shots. That's not like it would be little things around the house. You would do it, but you would have to make a point to say something about it. Whereas and we don't do this anymore, but I used to say this then. I would do something. I didn't feel a need to have to tell you so you feel some type of way about it. I just did it. It wasn't a need, and it took too much time and energy to do that. So
he used to do stuff like leave his shoes by the front door.
I still do.
No, you don't.
I do sometimes.
You absolutely do.
I don't do it as much. But I do it once in a while. But the thing is, you've done it, your kid done it, and your company has done it. Left his shoes on the stairs, but it's okay because some things for me,
company doesn't count.
Oh shit! Yes, it do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they got homes.
They're guests.
I don't care.
Where are their shoes gonna go? Because there's no
in the front where they're supposed to go.
Because this is a no shoe household.
Right. But sometimes people come in and they don't take their shoes off at the door. They're taking it off on the landing and some more stuff. So that's happened. But like I was saying, some stuff, and this ain't everybody. This is me. I'm just speaking for me because every person is different, every man is different, every woman is different. But for me, I don't deem that as important enough for me to say something all the time. Now, if it becomes something that really happens time and time again, then I'll say something. But 1 or 2, maybe even 3 instances of something happening, I don't feel the need to run and say something to you to make you notice what's going on. It's just not. That's just not in my DNA. It's not that serious. It's just too many more important things.
I wanted you to stop. And you wouldn't stop.
But
so what else am I supposed to do if I don't tell you about it?
You weren't telling me.
I was
popping shots. There's difference.
It went from telling to reminding to popping shots.
No. Not in that order. It was popping shots off the break, and then you tell me. You pop shots. Period. That's what you did. Pow, pow. That was you. That was how that went.
So we said all this to say, when you plan for a wedding, things like popping shots can definitely lead you to divorce.
Yeah.
For sure. That's when they say irreconcilable differences. That's what they mean. They mean the day-to-day interactions became unbearable. So it's like the little things. It was the little stupid stuff, right? But we got married for a covenant. Yeah. And, we both are heavy believers in God, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Mm-hmm. And honestly, He helped us get here to 12 years.
No doubt. We definitely had some hurdles we had to jump and get over, but I think at the end of the day, the big picture was, it wasn't enough to break us, right? Like, we didn't have any of those major, events people have in their marriages. We had things that needed to be addressed, but overall, our marriage is good. We have fun. We enjoy each other's company. My wife's definitely my best friend. And
you my best friend too, boo.
But the thing is, you should want to, I hear all the time, people who are out and stuff, and they don't want to come home, and they out doing everything but coming home because they don't want to go home. That's a problem. That's when it becomes something else. It grows into something else. It's not as much as a marriage. It's more like a struggle, because you're struggling to go home. You're struggling trying to find how to make your home a home, right? So when I go off work or get off work, I can't wait to get home, because that's my safe place. That's where I get to unwind. I know we're going to laugh and joke and have some positivity, whereas, you might have a whole day where it's all negative. Or it's just not a good look, or you're not feeling good, and then you come home and you have your kids and or your wife and all that, and that all comes together, then it puts it all in perspective and makes you realize what's important. So to harp on the point of the popping shots, you don't want that in your safe place. You don't want to come home from a hard day of dealing with the world, and you come in the household and it's more,
chaos and conflict.
Right.
And
it's like you already on 6 or 5, or depending on how your day go, and then you have.
He's doing scaling again.
So if it gets on
everybody does scaling in his family.
But it's a thing, right? If you at 7 and then you get a couple shots popped off and you at 8 or 9, then your whole environment, especially in your home, is not right, and that can grow into something you don't want it to. So it's the little things that we worry about. The big things, we're going to have some issues, we're going to have problems. Let's wait for those. We can't do that day to day. So when they do come, we ready for them. We got to be ready for those big moments where we need that extra shoulder to lean on. We need to talk to God for that strength. And it makes it easier when you won't have all these little digs or, things building up on you.
Yeah. I think what made me stop is the covenant, right? So when we sat down and you told me how it made you feel, that was not fun for me. It wasn't fun for me anymore. It wasn't effective. Number one, the shit was not effective. And number two, I don't want my best friend to not want to come home. I don't want you to come home and dread talking to me. I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to feel good about coming home.
But you know what I could say, and this would be to the audience too. You made a good point. It didn't change anything. But when we talked and we kind of talked about how it made you feel and how it made me feel. Like, of course, the little things that you were asking, it wasn't a big deal to me. It didn't put me out or nothing like that. It was just something that it just wasn't on my radar.
I'm a neat freak, y'all. I'm a neat freak. I have to admit it. I am. Things have to be in order. Things have to be in their place.
And it wasn't that I was doing it out of spite. It just wasn't my normal day to day. Now, I wasn't no slob, and I like organization. We just was different, 2 different type animals when it came to that, and we did it differently. So once we communicated on what was really bothering you, what was important to you, and then I would, communicate about what bothered me as far as the nagging and stuff. Even I'm not gonna get it every time, but every time I don't get it, I don't want to hear about it. And when that started to happen, then I was more attentive to it, because I still want to see, just like you want to see me happy, I want to see you happy. You gotta want to see your partner happy, right? So you're gonna do those little things to make them happy, but if it comes as a nag, then you're mad and you're irritable, and then nothing gets done.
Yeah.
So it's just the approach, and I think the best approach is communication, but in a good light, if that makes any sense.
Communicating about how it makes you feel, not communicating about your thoughts or your opinions. It's really about what is your spouse doing, right? Is it whatever your spouse is doing, is it making you feel good or is it making you feel bad? And when I learned that it was making you feel bad, that's when I curved it. And then miraculously, when I curved it, he started following protocol, because he don't leave his shoes by the door no more.
Shoot, actually, I started minimizing.
He did. He took it to a whole nother level where he started throwing shit out.
Threw everything away. Then we don't have to worry about nothing laying around the house because we ain't got nothing.
That's so true. We hate clutter. Now he's on board, hating clutter. Now he's mindful of it, I'll say. And I am too, right? Mindful of your feelings. So I think that's where the covenant comes in versus planning for the wedding, right? A lot of people get caught up in the wedding and what marriage is on the outside, right? So having the wedding and having kids and buying a house and, all of those things that when you think of a marriage are all of the outer surface things.
Then I was just about. I'm glad you said that because I was definitely thinking the wedding is cool and all, but
That shit only lasts a day.
that lasts a day.
And our wedding was fun. We had fun. We had a good wedding.
Big fun.
We had a lot of people.
It was I don't even know, that was unorthodox.
It was a lot of people.
Yeah.
We had a really nice reception party rather.
We had an after party.
And then we had an after party.
Everybody come to the suite.
Sure did. Like we did not finish partying until like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then we had to get up and go to our honeymoon the very next morning. We left.
That was crazy.
We were exhausted.
We were.
But it was fun. It was a good time. It was one day. But here we are, 12 years later.
Yeah, I think, you can't romanticize the wedding so much that you lose sight of the work.
Yeah, the real work.
Do during your marriage. And no marriage out there that's successful that don't require some work and some sacrifice and compromise.
Well, that's why I started out where it's hard. It's hard
because you have to figure that stuff out, and then you have to deal with it maturely and accordingly.
And you got to change.
And you got to change.
And you have to change.
Let me tell you,
we've changed so much.
You always hear about the fellas talking about, I don't want to. She ain't gonna change me. Look, dog. I'm gonna try to keep it. But
don't lie to him, boo.
You can't be who you were after you get married because you were single then. You were single. How you gonna be a single man in a marriage? You can't be single and married at the same time. That requires change. Requires a whole lot of change.
A lot.
You know what I'm saying? And it ain't gotta be. I ain't saying change your core as a person, but change your thinking to a certain degree. You have to think differently. You have to move differently when you marry. It's just, if you're going to have respect for your spouse, I expect her to move differently. I don't expect her out here to entertain all these dudes that might want to talk.
Damn, you make it seem like I was entertaining a whole bunch of dudes.
I'm not saying that, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you might hear what they have to say or smile and laugh a little too much. Now, I expect you to cut that shit off immediately.
He's stupid.
But, I'm just saying, like, you got to change.
You do.
A little bit, just to like I said, like you said,
we're making a big change, right? You're going from it, like you said, a single person to two people becoming one. You truly do blend your life, like all aspects of your life, your family. Like, that's a big deal. Like,
I didn't, what's crazy? When we got married, I didn't even think about that. That wasn't in my mind at all about how our families would mesh or if they would mesh. That was
another adjustment.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why you say that? I think it worked out great.
No. It's great. Now,
it was an adjustment. We're backing up. It was an adjustment.
Yeah, in the beginning it was an adjustment because we had two different family cultures. Yeah. So the way my family operated was new for you. And the way your family operated was new for me. And so we had to adjust to that.
Well, I think the issue
he about to be petty again.
I'm just saying the issue was your family. Well, your immediate family is all women. And y'all grew up
I have
in a household
bunch of
with
sisters.
Only women. Whereas I grew up in a household where there was a man in the house. So we moved different. Like y'all walk around
naked,
no clothes on, and have doors open. You don't have that because you can't have doors open all the time if you have a man in the house and women in the house and people coming over. You can't have that because it's a man in the house.
We didn't do it when people were coming over.
But still, like your friends, women be naked in front of their friends. Dudes don't do that. It's just a different environment when there's men in the household and how you move in the house. So that was definitely a difference in our, like you said, our culture of our homes.
Yeah, and I also feel like because I have so many sisters.
Yeah, I only got one sister.
Right. I don't. I have 4.
And she chilling just like me.
So we're really close. So, we'll go over each other's house and grab some clothes or go steal something that we want. Like we saw a shirt that she got on and I'm gonna take that shit the next time I go to her house. Stuff like that. That stuff that we've been doing all our life, and it was different. It was different. It was just an adjustment to make. My sisters still do come and do stuff like that. I have stuff missing all the time. You guys send out a text and say, even one of y'all got this shirt or got this, something. But you had to get used to that.
No, I definitely had to adjust.
I had to get used to it too. We had to adjust. That was an adjustment period. Yeah, he was.
I'm still like that. I don't like people eating my food.
He's still like that. He's like, you let them eat it all?
Cause I don't. I eat. And then they eat my best food, like my food. Eat my Twizzlers and stuff that's just for me.
See, and that's another family culture that's
a man
different.
Thing. Like my father had, he always had his chips on the top of it. Nobody touched my father's chips. We knew that was his chips.
You want to know what's crazy?
What?
I do all the time. When I go to your parents' house, I go and I do.
That's
because
taboo. But he only said
he doesn't say it to me. He don't say anything.
That you're my wife and you don't know no better.
I feel like he feels like I know better. I don't think he's tripping anymore.
I don't think he's tripping anymore.
He don't trip.
He's old and he want everybody around as much as possible.
Yeah,
He's different than who he was when I was living there.
Well, see, I was raised by my mother primarily. My father was there and in my life, but my mother and father were not together my whole life. But my husband, he grew up in a nuclear traditional family with mom and dad married, son and daughter.
Right.
So my mother raised us to never, if you went out to eat and you put your name on your food and you put that shit in the refrigerator, my mother would eat that shit on purpose. Just out of spite to say, who you think you are that you ain't gonna share?
Let's be clear. Nobody put their name on nothing.
No, I'm just saying it was always a sharing is caring type environment. A sharing thing,
but you knew when my father didn't want you to eat it because he hid it and put it in the back of the refrigerator.
See, nobody hid stuff.
See, nah,
we didn't hide stuff.
Well, he was really just hiding it from me because it wasn't nobody else. And I'm greedy and I eat. So now I understand because my son is greedy and he eats all of my food.
Yes.
So now I understand.
Now it's coming back on you.
It's coming full circle. But now my father be like, come on over here, eat some of this food. Yeah. I need help.
He sure do.
He do that all the time. I think that really is a way for him to try to get me over this. Because he does that man, come on, eat the food. Oh, now you're giving away food, huh? You didn't want me to have no food just a week ago, but nah.
So these are the parts of the covenant, right? The adjustment period, the hard part, the change. The change is the covenant.
Yeah, and you know what I think? I think if you're doing it right, it don't always seem like you're doing everything right, or you're never doing everything right, but I feel like it's getting easier than harder, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, now I feel like we're on autopilot.
Right.
We already know.
If I do something,
adjustment is done.
If I do something, I already know it's fucked up. I know I done fucked up. It's just a matter of me doing damage control at this point. Damn, I know I shouldn't have did that shit. How I'm gonna clean this shit up. That's where I'm at with it now. I already know what sends you off or what makes you happy.
I just got in trouble the other day. And when my sister came here the other day, I said, I was in so much trouble. I was like, you don't even know how much trouble I got. And I got in trouble. I still get in trouble.
Oh, yeah. I know what you did.
We're not going to mention that. You're going to be petty and mention that too?
No, I'm going to leave that alone.
Damn. So, we do. We already know. We already know if we make a decision that's going to upset the other person. We already know that ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's not a shocker when we get the response that we get.
Right.
Because the adjustment period is done.
Right.
So how do we maintain this covenant? Now that we're on autopilot, we kind of adjusted. I mean, even though when life changes, we can adjust to life because life makes you adjust again, right? So I say we're on autopilot because we're just kind of in a phase, but when we get to a different phase.
So I guess you say, how do you maintain it?
Yeah, how are we going to maintain this?
Well, I think you maintain it when you don't lose sight of it. Like, you don't take it for granted. Because when you start to take it for granted, then stuff starts to fall by the wayside, right? Like, you still need to court and make your wife happy, make your husband happy, do things because there's still little. See, at this point, you can read things that happen or it's said by your spouse. It is up to you to take those cues. And there's cues because you're always putting cues out there on what you might want to change. It's just not blatant up in your face, but there's always cues. So when you stop paying attention, then those cues go unanswered, and then things piles up, and then people are more irritated, and it slowly builds on it. So you gotta constantly be paying attention. It don't have to be a painful thing, but it still has to be some type of a conscious level to it, if that makes any sense.
Well, I kind of lucked up in the husband department because one of the things that you value is learning.
That's true.
Right? So you always feel like you can learn to be better. You can always learn. You're interested in always growing and becoming a better person.
I mean, yeah, because I think a lot of guys in general don't like to be told their flaws. Motherfucker, I ain't perfect. I know I got flaws, and if I'm spending half my time trying to argue down why I am or why I did this right, I ain't growing. I ain't got time for that. Time is running out, and I'm trying to be the best person I can be. So if somebody says something to me, I'm secure in mind. I'm going to listen, and I can take from it, or I can leave it. Sometimes there's jewels in it, and sometimes it's just bullshit. But you have to decipher that. But you can't be closed off to everything and anything somebody say to you.
Well, especially your wife.
Especially your wife.
You should never be closed off to anything your spouse is saying.
But depends on your wife. That ain't everybody's wife. That ain't everybody's wife. You gotta. I mean,
you shouldn't be marrying her then.
You shouldn't.
Don't marry her if you don't value and trust, what she's saying. Right? Like, and
this, well, we're talking from the standpoint that everything's going in a good direction, right? So yeah, if you're going in that, yes, that's true. Like you have to, your spouse should always have your best interests at hand, and you need to trust that that's what's going on. So when they tell you something, know that they're saying it in your best interest and not to ridicule you or tear you down, but to help build you up, and vice versa, both ways. Right.
Well, yeah,
we're trying to build here. We're trying to improve on each other. I'm trying to get you to heaven. I need you to try to do the same for me.
I was just about to bring that up, right? So, I talked to all my married couples about, first of all, a goal for your marriage. You should always assume the best of your spouse, even when it doesn't look that way, even when it doesn't sound that way. You have to trust that your spouse has your best interest at heart.
Yeah, and there's been times where, like you say, she has to remind me, or vice versa, where it's like, I didn't assume the best, right? And then she would say, don't ever think I will harm you. Know that I would never intentionally do you wrong. So, and then, those constant reminders, and I wasn't offended. I knew what she meant. I know what we talked about. I knew where we were at with it. So I didn't take it any kind of way. It was what it was. You take it and you recognize it. Sometimes you got to look at yourself and do some self-analyzing. You ain't got to say it to her. You just look at yourself, or say it to him, vice versa. But you have to do some self-checking.
You do.
You always need to
some
check
self-reflection.
yourself. Check yourself. That way, you just keep going. You keep moving forward.
So the other thing was, hold on. When we went to premarital counseling, the most impactful thing that we learned was that it was our job to get each other to heaven.
Right.
That messed me up for a whole week because before getting engaged, I was one of those people that always said, all right, you that ain't worth me going to hell. I ain't going to hell for that. And then when I was informed that I wasn't just responsible for my behavior, that I was responsible for yours too. I mean, it really took me for a loop. That was scary and a hell of a challenge.
It's a challenge.
It really is.
Because you got to be, because if you're trying to help your spouse get to the pearly gates, sometimes you got to tell them some shit they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And that don't always go over well.
It don't always go over well. It's not always received.
Right.
And you can't give up. You can't give up. You can't allow them to keep moving that way, knowing that it's not getting them there. So even though they might be resistant to it, you can't give up. And that's a big deal. So the wedding is great. It's one day. But the marriage is a lifetime.
And there's no goal. It's really about the journey. It's the process. It ain't the goal. There is no goal, especially when it comes to marriage.
Well, that is the goal, but we're trying to get each other to heaven.
Yeah, but by that time it's over as well. So
Actually, it's just beginning then.
Well, yeah, but you need to enjoy the process because you won't get to the goal if you don't enjoy the process.
Now, that's true. Now, that is true. That is a word.
There you go.
So enjoy the process. Enjoy the covenant. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be hard. Look to make change. Trust that your spouse has your best interest at heart. Don't marry somebody that you don't think that they don't. If they don't have your best interest at heart, that's an absolute no thank you. Keep it moving.
That's an enemy.
That is an enemy. And be aware of the ones that are looking forward to the wedding, that's really looking forward to the business relationship. I see a lot of marriages where they operate as a business and not as a unit.
But that's a whole nother episode.
That is a whole, we should talk about that, prenups.
Because
if you have a prenup, that's an absolute business arrangement.
That's a big
100%.
That's a big topic. That's very controversial.
All right, guys. I hope you learned something to take back to your covenant. So what are the takeaways? Marriage is hard, but it definitely is worth it, right? The wedding is one day, but the marriage is the covenant between two individual people coming together as one. It's putting two individual people and blending them as one. That's the hard part. And why is it hard? Because it requires change. And change is hard. And not only does it require change one time, but it requires consistent change. Because as your life changes, you must change and adapt with it. What did Bruce Lee say? Be like water, my friend. Thanks for listening to I'm Not Gonna Lie to You podcast. Subscribe for more insightful and down-to-earth content. And don't forget to follow us on social media at An Angel's Touch 8 on Instagram and An Angel's Touch Therapy on Facebook.